It's that time of year when YouTube is getting flooded with the how to food plot videos. But we're here in Florida, and as you can see in the background, my summer food plot is still feeding strong. Now those tall things are weeds and I got to get in there and take care of them. But the 2-foot tall stuff is iron clay peas that I planted this summer, and they still got 60 more days of feeding to do before it's time for them to be brush hogged and something else to be planted. So typically in North Florida, we're planting our food plots in the early November time frame. So I've been doing food plots going on 17 years now, and I've perfected a method that not only saves time, but also saves fuel. And my method addresses what I think is a problem, and that's that most food plotters are trying to make their food plot look like a perfect field. And when I plant this fall, it will look perfect. It'll be perfectly tilled, it'll be level, it'll be cultipacked, but I'll do it in less steps and use less passes across the field and use less fuel than what most people will show you in their how-to videos of how to do a food plot. So I got to take off this wood chipper and put on the one implement that I'll be using to till with. And there's two primary things you till with when you're food plotting. You're going to use a disc harrow, or you're going to use an actual tiller or rototiller for your tractor. I like what a rototiller does, and so that's what we're going to be putting on here. So we're going to be planting something called buckwheat. And if you're not familiar with buckwheat, it is a legume that's mainly planted in the spring. And usually it matures, makes seed in about 30 days, I think. It's a real quick maturing, and you can till it in after 30, 45 days, and the seeds that it makes will regerminate, and you can get the second crop out of it. Here in Florida, you can get 3 and 4 crops out of it if your deer herd doesn't, really like it and eat it down. So the first year we tried buckwheat on our 1,200 acre hunting lease. The deer didn't know what it was, and so they were reluctant to eat it. But then once they found out what it was, we had to stop planting it because they would wipe it out before it would get a chance to go to seed or really do any good for the soil. So it's a real good green manure. And if you're not familiar with what green manure means, it's something that can be tilled under. Like it'll scavenge nutrients from the soil, and then you till it under, and it makes your soil better and prepares the soil for the next crop. One thing that's made my life a lot easier, besides having a concrete floor, is having these furniture movers or wooden dollies or whatever you want to call them to put my implements on that I want to store inside. And as you can see, I don't even have to start my tractor. I don't have to do a lot of pushing and hauling as far as to disconnect them from the 3-point hitch. You can kind of get them in position and hook things up fairly quickly. And you store them inside where they'll last basically forever. So this is the first time I've had the tiller on these casters because it's normally been kept outside and I didn't have the room in here, but I made the room. You gotta be careful how you put the tiller on, because when it's sitting on the dollies, the tines actually go down lower than the bottom of the implement. So you gotta get it just right so it'll fit, but once it fits, I mean, look how easy it rolls. Just push it up to the tractor, and if I have to make any fine adjustments, then I can just move it left or right real easy. I do not like hooking up 3-point equipment, and whenever I say that, somebody says, get a quick hitch. And then I usually reply to them in the comments, most of my implements are old, and they don't have the right dimensions for a quick hitch. Well, I got more and more implements since then, but I'm actually getting a quick hitch. So when that arrives, you're going to see a quick hitch on my channel after years of me protesting that I couldn't use one because they don't work on most of my implements. I know this video is going to be about food potting, but just look how easy this is to hook up this 3-point piece of equipment. You can slide it any way you want to, get it in any position you want to, top link, and then I'm done. This thing's hooked up. Made in the shade. Now here's the secret, guys. If you don't have one of these, you need to run, not walk, to wherever you can get one. They sell them on Amazon. This is not sponsored. I've had this thing for probably 15 years. I've replaced several parts on it. It's the same model. It's been out there forever. Solo is a great company. They make not only the cedar, but backpack sprayers, battery-powered sprayers. I'm not in any way affiliated with Solo, except that they make great products. And if you don't have one of these seeders, you need to get one. You can seed anything from clover, wheat, rye, buckwheat. I can do an acre with this easily. It holds, I think a 50-pound bag of seed will fill this about 3 times or so. And you just walk and turn this. It's good exercise. But if you're doing like massive acreage, I've got this power harrow over here by IBEX. Got it from Tractor Tools Direct. We are sponsored by them. And it's got an integrated seeder, and that's one pass. But most of us don't need that. That's like a $5,000 piece of equipment. I think this is 150 bucks. And if it lasts you 15 years, like it lasted me, that's like $10 a year. That's less than $1 a month. So we're at the site of a micro pot here at Piney Grove. I showed you our big 1 acre food plot. Like I said, we're not going to do anything with that for a couple months. But this here, it isn't even 1/4 of an acre. Now I do have iron clay peas planted over there, but again, they're still feeding. The deer are coming through here. It had clover in it, but that's all gone now, so it's just weeds. So I've done no tillage, no pre-tillage. I did mow it, and you don't have to mow it if your tiller can handle the amount of green material that's here. And I had a little bit of grass. The tiller would have handled it fine, but I happened to have the mower on it. So I mowed it, and it was mowed about, I don't know, a week or so ago. But here is the secret. I'm going to throw the seed right on top of the ground. You do not have to pre-till, and that's what I see as the biggest mistake out there. And I say mistake, I mean, that's more of conventional farming, and it's just not needed. It's not going to give you a better food plot. It's not really even going to make it prettier. It's not going to do anything for you. You could come in here, spread fertilizer right on top of this. You could spread seed right on top of this, but don't put the 2 in the same container. That's not good. Spread them with 2 different spreaders, and then till it in, and then you'd be done. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. If you wanted to, you could drive your tractor over it just to pack it in, or you could have your kids with the ATV drive over it, or drag a mattress or something over it. But you don't have to do anything else. Spread the seed and till, and you're done. Now we're going to do a final step and show you a piece of equipment that I think will improve your germination rate by 30 to 50%. But again, it's not necessary. I'm just going to spread the seed on here, and we're going to till it, and we're going to have a perfect food plot in, say, 7 to 10 days when this buckwheat comes up. And I'm going to repeat myself. It is not a mistake to pre-till. I mean, that's what farmers generally do unless they have a no-till piece of machinery. But there's no need for it. It just wastes diesel fuel. It packs the land because the equipment goes over it additional time. So you can keep doing it that way if you just enjoy doing it that way. But your deer don't care. Deer do not care anything about your tillage method. They just care that green stuff comes up. They don't care if it's bumpy. They don't care if it's smooth. They probably don't even care if it's weed free, because some of the weeds they like. And you'll notice that when you're hunting, that you plant this beautiful food plot, but when you're fertilizing the edges as well as your food plot, and they'll be there in the edges eating the weeds. So one thing about this pack spreader is it doesn't go around your neck like a necklace. It goes across like that and hooks in here, and you literally turn it. It's got a little gate. You turn it and it spreads the seed. There's the seed, buckwheat seed. I'm going to put it out pretty thick. I've got plenty for the areas that I want to do, and it's not an expensive seed either. I bought this from Hancock Seed, and they shipped it to me. Most local co-ops and places where you normally get food plot seed, they're not going to have buckwheat. There's just not a huge demand for it. Avoid the buck in the bag or buck on a bag. And basically, these people want you to buy their seed, and they want you to think it's a better seed than anybody else's seed. So they put this big rack buck on the bag and try to fool you that if you plant their, special wheat seed, that you're going to get big bucks. It doesn't work that way. Just go to a farm supply store, and get rye, winter rye. Not rye that makes your yard look green in the winter in a neighborhood, but rye grains, cereal rye, whatever you want to call it. Get 50 pounds of that. This is per acre. Then also get 50 pounds of wheat. And get 50 pounds of oats. And not buck forage oats or anything with buck on a bag, just oats. You probably pay 60 bucks for that 150 pounds that I just told you, and that's the perfect food plot. Now, if you want, you might want to throw in some radishes, or if you believe in brassicas, which I don't. So I did buy some Daikon radish seed from Hancock Seed because I want it for the tillage effect. Daikon radishes make a big long tuber, and they'll go deep in the soil and help break up the hard pan and also bring nutrients from down below up top. You go with rye wheat, oats, and if you're in a cold climate, your oats might winter kill, and then some sort of clover. If you plant it now, whatever your seasons are, it'll feed from the time it sprouts all the way till June, because the clover will start coming up or start being strong in March or April, and high protein, and then you don't even have to plant anything in the summer. So one planting, and you can using this method. Now if I was planting clover, you don't want to cover up the clover with the rototiller, so you would rototill, then you would throw the clover on top, and then you would cultipack. Now we're going to till it. Now you could use a disc harrow here, it would work just as well. Let me caveat that by saying a disc harrow is a little bit more finicky, as far as you would have to make sure your soil moisture was good, because if it was too dry and too hard a soil, it might not disc deep enough and cover the seeds with dirt. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking for seed to soil contact, and it doesn't matter how you get it. Guys, that food plot is done. If you had no other equipment, you could walk away, and those 2 5-foot passes there would be done. And if you have good moisture, it'll come up. If you don't have good moisture, the next time it rains, it'll come up. And if you wanted to, you could pack it, and that would help a little bit with germination. But if you don't have the equipment, you could just leave it like that. All right, guys, that is 6 passes, 5 feet across, 100 feet long. Did it in just a couple minutes. And this was just woods just a couple years ago. It's got good soil now because we've been continuously keeping things growing. And it's done. Now I'm going to go get the cultipacker and show you how to cultipack. But this is how easy it is. And it has totally chopped up the weeds. And if one of your questions is disc harrow versus tiller, I would say tiller, because I can go slow across here, whereas if you use a disc harrow, you got to go fast to get chopping action, and it'll beat you up a little bit on the tractor. So I like a tiller because I can go at any speed I want to, and also a tiller doesn't really care if it's dry or if it's wet, whereas a disc harrow kind of needs your soil to have the right amount of moisture to get a perfect seed bed. But this came out great. Can't wait for it to come up, and then we'll come back in here after the buckwheat is gone, and we will plant our fall food plot. Shout out to Miss Piney Grove for some filming. She was walking by with Bella. Bella loves the cool dirt. Bella, go with Mom. Speaking of Bella, she's a bird dog. Birds, turkeys and quail love the seed produced by buckwheat. So if you're thinking about something to plant in the spring that's easy to plant, it's beautiful, beautiful flowering type of legume, I guess. And the bees love it too. So there's so many benefits to buckwheat. So I'm glad to get some in here. Haven't tried it out here at Piney Grove yet, but that's a good looking food plot. All right, I'm going to go plant a couple strips at the other field, and then I'll come back here with the cultipacker and we'll wrap this up. Okay, my last secret for food plotting is a cultipacker. And like I mentioned earlier, you do not have to do this step. But what this does is it takes a soft, fluffy seed bed, which will grow that buckwheat perfectly. This is an old farm cultipacker that I had built into an ATV one. So we put pillow block bearings on it, and we just have these old-timey heavy metal wheels that you can't buy anymore. But you can buy modern cultipackers that do the same thing. But these points right here will push down. So you can see over there where they've done that already. So anything under these points will get pushed down, and then what's in between here will get squeezed. So what you'll end up with is a firm soil bed that's, you know, slightly packed, and also it has ridges in it that help with erosion. So any seed that might be laying on the ground, and I see a buckwheat seed right there that's laying on top of the ground because as it went through the tiller, it got thrown back up on top instead of being down low underneath the soil. So this will push them in the ground, and what you'll get is a much higher germination rate. So let's say you put out 100 seeds and the box says 93% germination rate. Well, only 93 of them are going to come up anyway. And then if you have some left on top of the ground, you might only end up with 70 to 80% of your seeds that come up because they're sitting on top of the ground, and once they get wet and swell, they can't send their root down. So they need to be under the soil or pushed into the soil. And that's where the cultipacker comes in. We were putting in up to 11 acres of food plots every year. Once we switched to a cultipacker instead of a drag, our germination went up and our food plots were better. We just got more seeds that were coming up. It doesn't make it fertilize better. It doesn't make it do anything better except give you better germination. So it is an optional step, but it's not an optional step if you wanted to put a small seed out here like a clover seed. So let's say you put out your big seed already like I just did, and then you till it in. You could leave it, you could drag it, you could cultipack it. But if you wanted to grow clover, you would put clover on top of this tilled soil, and clover can only go down about 1/4 of an inch, and then you would cultipack the clover, and then it would be at the right depth. So I would say this is only a necessary step if you're going to do something like clover or radish or something that's a real small seed that has to be put down after your land is tilled. So I'm going to go ahead and cultipack this and show you how easy it is. It's real fun to do. A cultipacker can be noisy, but in soft soil it's not. So on the ride here it's bumpy and making a whole bunch of rattly noise, but in here it's gonna be fairly quiet. And I'm towing it with the Hyson 48-volt electric, which does a great job, and I can just hear the cultipacker working behind me instead of the roar of the engine of a side-by-side. So if you're wondering if you could food plot with an electric side-by-side, I do it all the time, man. This thing will go 42 miles on one charging, and it's never discharged on me. So been a great vehicle. If you're wondering if you could food plot with a side-by-side, you certainly can. There's pull behind discs that you can get for them. Obviously you can use a cultipacker. There's seeders. So we would love to hear how you food plot. Do you ever do it like this? Do you have a different way? Do you have any secret or any tips out there you can offer our viewers? Because not everyone's going to have the same equipment. Not everyone's going to have the same soil. But I just wanted to show that you don't have to do the pre-tilling to have a good food plot. You can do the pre-tilling, that's perfectly fine. It's the way farmers do a lot of crops, is that they pre-till before they plant. But this works out perfect. It saves time, it saves diesel fuel, and still gives you a good plot. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. We appreciate you guys watching. So until next time, remember, life's short, tractor hard, and check out these 2 videos right here. They're totally awesome. Take care, guys. Catch you on the next one.